Hello, good evening, and welcome back to Sync, your show where we talk about all things audiovisual. We speak with people in the industry and talk about issues that matter to them. Today is episode 3, and we will be talking about ableism in the workplace. Joining us today is a lovely lady here. Her name is Violet Ferguson. Welcome to the show, Violet.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for having us. So, just to start, we always like to start with an intro, give a bit of character and personality to our audience. Tell us about you, your background, anything like that.
Sure. So I'm Violet. I am an alumni of Sheridan College. I graduated from the Film and Television program in 2022. And since then, I am mainly based in producing. I'm an emerging producer. I just was the associate producer of a television series called The Squeaky Wheel Canada, which just got nominated for 2 Canadian Screen Awards.
Wow.
And it's a show kind of very heavily inspired by shows like This Hour Has 22 Minutes, it's a sketch comedy series that pokes fun at the ableism that disabled people face on a daily basis. I'm also a consultant, a social media manager, and disability advocate, and in my spare time I'm a TikTok creator and Instagram creator, and my platform is based, I kind of talk about disability and dwarfism through a pop culture lens.
I see. That's pretty cool. I mean, all that you mentioned, we might be needing to ask for your attendance to something like this weeks in advance next time. You might be very famous. You never know. But yeah, so just to start, we are talking about ableism in the workplace. As you mentioned, you are someone with dwarfism. And so, just to start, we will ask, or rather, I will ask you, what is your experience as someone that just newly entered the workplace? What was that experience like for you?
So it's actually been, I'm very privileged and lucky that I've had an easy experience. Networking is something that my family kind of always instilled in me. So since I got to Sheridan, I just would talk to as many people as possible, reach out to people. Even with one of the assignments we had to do in 3rd year was reach out to someone who really inspired us and someone who was in a career that we wanted to be in. And through that assignment, I was actually able to talk to someone who gave me a job once I graduated from college. So I haven't run into kind of a lot of issues. Like I said, I've been really lucky, but it is something that even when I was in high school, I was kind of fearful about, especially having a disability, because I knew so many people with the same disability as me who had a lot of trouble getting work because, they would come into a job interview and someone would just look at them and just see their stature, and that's it.
I see. As you mentioned high school, I would like to roll it back a bit, just kind of an origin story. So, starting from high school, entering college, etc., etc., what were the kind of challenges you faced then? How did you overcome them? How did you, improve yourself? All that kind of stuff, just to give us more of that fear.
Yeah. So in high school, I guess the only challenges I really faced was kind of ableism from other students that I think at times were mainly ignorance because they had never seen a little person before, but at other times it could be a little bit mean-spirited. And I think unfortunately that's just teenagers. Teenagers can just be really
Teenagers are
mean.
not the nicest people at all.
Yeah, and I've been told it's because they're insecure of themselves, but I mean I was insecure in high school and I never was mean to people.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think I had a really supportive group of friends. I was a music kid. I was in choir. I played in band, and I was
That's cool.
I was I felt like I really like belonged in a group because I think a lot of those kids also felt like they were othered as well. So we could kind of like just relate to each other and kind of like our differences. And yeah, like I had a really supportive system. So I didn't face a lot of challenges in high school. It kind of like continued on over into college, except people were a lot nicer. Like I didn't really face a lot of ableism in college. I guess the only challenge I really...
Shout out to
Yes,
Sheridan.
yes, thank you, Sheridan. I guess the only challenge I really faced was kind of like, I was actually just talking about this today, but imposter syndrome, and I think everyone has it, but just feeling like because I was 1 out of 2 visibly disabled people in a program of 100, that I didn't really feel like I belonged, because it was very hard to like connect with other people when you're like facing kind of other challenges and you can't relate, like people can't relate to you.
I see, that's interesting. I mean, you're already an inspiration to me. I mean, being a producer of a show, realistically, it's something that is, because you're basically in a leadership position, I would say, for something. I mean, you got nominated for 2 Canadian awards already, so I don't know, it's just very impressive to me. I just wanted to give you your props on that once again, because I still keep thinking about it.
Thank you.
Just to continue, let's focus on your career path. What motivated you to pursue a career in following the BFTV program, becoming a producer and everything like that?
So I came into Sheridan, and I think a lot of people kind of come into Sheridan with this mindset just from like talking to my peers when I was in first year, is wanting to be a director, like a narrative director. And as in kind of my first year, I also realized that I really liked cinematography, and I wanted to experiment with that. And then when I got into like my second and third year, I was taking cinematography classes, I was taking directing classes, and then I was like, you know what, I don't really like this. I'm not really good at it either. And I was like, okay, I need to pivot and find something else that I enjoy, because I don't want to go into the industry trying to go into a career that I didn't enjoy. And when we did our, I want to say our second, it was in third year and it was second semester, we did our narrative productions, and I decided that I would just try producing mine, and I loved it. And that's how I kind of fell into producing once I got into once I graduated from Sheridan. I kind of continued on with that, yeah.
No, that's pretty cool. To go back to what you mentioned earlier, you're a disability advocate. What kind of role do you play in the community nowadays to be an advocate? What do you do? And then we'll talk later about how do you interact with people, what do you see out there and everything like that.
Yeah, so my main role is online advocacy. I make a lot of TikToks. I started off on TikTok, and it was actually just like a TikTok I posted in 2022 that blew up overnight. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm good at this. I'm gonna continue doing
you like that?
it. Yeah, I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'm kind of stuck here. But no, I actually, it was something that I really enjoyed. But yeah, it's just making like short form videos or long-term videos. I tend to kind of focus on, I kind of dig deeper into issues. So for example, like in the dwarfism community, there's a lot of people who will like exploit themselves for money by like, you know, dressing up as like elves or leprechauns and going to like the bar and doing like St. Patrick's Day things. And I kind of like will, like, this is just an example, but we'll focus on kind of like why that's problematic and like dig into kind of like the systemic issues and focus on perspectives that people don't necessarily think about. And I think it's really allowed me to kind of like learn more about the dwarfism community. And I think I'm just really glad that I'm in kind of this position where I can educate people. And I do hope one day that it goes offline as well. Like I would love to be able to do kind of like speaking gigs where I can educate other people in person.
I see. So in your advocacy work, what type of, let's start with, I guess, the negative. Do you face any kind of backlash or any type of people pushing back against what you're trying to do?
Yes. So I would say like 90% of comments are positive.
That's good.
A lot of the comments that I get are from people who, like, yeah, negative comments are trolls, people who just have like nothing better to do. And it's, you know, they're trolls because they don't really base their arguments in like
Anything
evidence.
substantial.
Yeah, or they'll just, you know, be having a bad day and you know, they'll just come onto my TikTok and just say something like negative about my appearance, and it's like, okay, you're not serious, like you're just here to be mean. I have faced pushback from like certain individuals in the dwarfism community who maybe feel that like they, you know, they want to do a job where that's kind of like demeaning. They don't like my perspective. Like, you know, I'll say on TikTok like, hey, jobs where little people, you know, get thrown, because, you know, that's like an actual sport. It's called dwarf tossing, where people will go into bars and like toss little people across the room. These people will be like, oh, it's a good time, I get money from it, and I'm like,
Yeah,
why do you want to do that?
Exactly. It sounds very demeaning.
Yeah, but it's like I said, like 90% of comments are positive. I've been very lucky.
Yeah. So of the positive comments, how do you, let's say, because I figured there are other little people and stuff like that that would speak to you and, you know, want more advice, want some more encouragement and all that. How do you usually advise them? How do you help them, reach out to them of the sort?
Yeah, I try to reach out to as many people as possible who reach out to me. It is sometimes hard when like a video will go viral, and I do have to remember that I have to set my own boundaries too, because some people will come into like my DMs and like overshare, and you know, I get where they're coming from, but that kind of makes me uncomfortable a little bit. But I think, yeah, like it's been really nice having little people like reach out to me and say, I'm a little person, I really resonate with what you're saying, or like, thank you for having this platform and like saying these things, because I think about when I was younger, and you know, when I was a teenager I wasn't really on social media, but the only kind of positive representation I had was like TV and books, and that was like so small. Like there was like, I saw more negative representations than positive, and I wish that I kind of had like people on social media that I could look up to, because I think that would have made me feel a lot better for the future.
I see. No, that's pretty cool. In the workplace, I know as a producer and everything, how do you feel about policies from like companies and stuff like that? What is your perspective on it? Do you currently feel they're at a good place right now or not currently?
I think that like there's always room for improvement.
Of course.
I know like a lot of disabled people, just like here in North America, so not just Canada, that like cannot work because it requires them to go into like a physical workplace, and you know, they really want these like work from home opportunities. And I feel like since the height of the pandemic, like since 2020, 2021, we really took a step back because everything was online. Even like concerts were online, like seminars, workshops. They had like all this, actually I think it was like Coachella or something had like
I remember though.
Yeah, there was like
they kind of had like cameras and stuff where people could like kind of like Zoom or like in WWE they called it a Thunderdome, where you could like listen from there, or they had it on TikTok, for example, and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
But there was even like one instance at a concert, I think it was Coachella, where all of the like seating was separated and it was on like raised platforms.
Oh yeah,
So you would
that's
be in
pretty
like
cool.
your own bubble.
Yeah.
And disabled people were like, oh, this would be so perfect because it's like a raised platform. I can be in like my own area. I can actually see the concert.
Yeah.
And it's like they had been asking for all of these things, whether
Mhm.
it's like in person or if it's like workplace accommodations, like virtual accommodations,
Mhm.
and these policymakers were like, no, like we can't do that. And then
Yeah.
as soon as the pandemic hit, it was
Suddenly,
possible.
Yeah.
And now it's all been like taken back. Like I really thought that, okay, we're gonna have more like virtual, like work from home opportunity, or more virtual opportunities, more work from home opportunities.
Yeah.
And now everyone's like, okay, we got to get back into the office because it's
Yeah.
productive. Like
Yeah.
no more
They
like
always put it under the mask of cost effectiveness and
Exactly.
jargon like that.
yeah.
So, it's interesting. So what would you you could throw off a couple examples of specific things that you would change. I know you're already like kind of on that path. So like let's just push it out there. In the future, what would you like to affect and change in the workplace specifically to help more disabled people feel comfortable, have kind of an easier, not just an easier time, but be able to be as productive or as effective as they want to be for themselves?
Sure. Do you want me to focus on like just the workplace in general, or more like the audio visual?
Yeah, on like in our industry, the
Okay.
audiovisual industry.
So actually, I can talk about a little bit about like the accommodations that we had
Yeah,
on
of course.
the squeaky wheel. So the entire pre-production process, except for like when we had to go location scout or when we had to do rehearsals,
Mhm.
was virtual, which was really helpful because we had people from all over Canada, like even our writers, we had people from like out in British Columbia.
Wow.
So we were able to work with people all around the world, and they were all disabled too.
Yeah.
But even like there were some people on our team who just like physically could not, like would not be able to work in an office due to their
Mhm.
disability. So it was a much more like relaxed environment. So I would say like, yes, that's one of the first things is
Yeah.
if a disabled person cannot work in person, then you give them the opportunity to work
Exactly. The
from
only
home.
thing you got to worry about then is time zones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, we had like our 11 a.m. meetings, and like there was some like poor people from British Columbia who were like, it's 8 a.m. But what else? Also on set, we had shorter working days because
Mhm.
I think that's like a big problem for disabled people who want to work on set is that they're
Yeah.
like long 12, 14-hour days,
Yeah.
and then they're like exhausted by the next day, and they don't have like energy to work like back-to-back days.
Yeah.
So our our days were 9-hour days, and that
Okay.
let people kind of like get home at a reasonable time, and they could
Yeah.
prepare for the next day. And I think we actually would shoot back to back for 3 days in a row, and then we would have a break. So we always kind of put these like days for rest, so
Mhm.
people weren't like working for the entire week. So those are just like some examples that I can list off the top of my head. But I would also say like just in general, like listen to disabled people. Like if a
Yeah.
disabled person needs an accommodation because it'll make their life like easier and they'll be more productive,
Yeah.
then like make sure that you can give that to them.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate that. I know, just a personal example I know is one of my friends, her name is Maddie. She has a situation where she has to wear headphones because of like noise kind of affects her very acutely.
Okay.
And so she has to wear headphones and play music wherever she is. And so I think we had a recent professor who wasn't, I guess he hadn't like learned about us and everything, done his due diligence and everything like that.
Yeah.
And so she was playing her music in class, and you could tell that it was getting to him and everything like that. And so it kind of sucked. You know, you gotta. We were looking at him and like, you know, you're supposed to like kind of learn first of all who's gonna be here, and then also he never took the time to like go speak to her or anything like that. You could just like tell he was frustrated the whole time, and I had to like go eventually be like, hey, this is what's going on, blah blah blah. And then he was like, oh, and then just to say, all I say with that is that there is a level of responsibility that we need, as you said, to listen to people, but also to learn by
Yeah.
ourselves about um, not just the bigger, what's disability, this and this, but also in your personal areas, in your workplace, you know, learn about the people. I feel like there's so much, it's kind of like segregation. So let's say you don't want to talk to them because maybe you're scared you're gonna like do something that you're not supposed to do. But in doing that, you're ostracizing
Yeah.
instead of being welcoming and everything like that. So I just say that to say that a lot of learning is necessary on other people's part, to learn and to be, to be bold in how they go about making a more welcoming environment and everything like that. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah. So, okay, outside the workplace, we will go back to the workplace, but outside the workplace, what is the sense of community like for you? I know with your TikTok and your advocacy work, you have started to build a community, but let's start with before you did that. What was the sense of community like? Did you feel a strong sense of community for disabled people around you, and was it something that you were satisfied with at the time?
Yeah. So I don't think I was really connected to a lot of disabled people before I started social media. I only started accepting my disabled identity in my first year of college
I see.
because I was always taught that like disability is something to, or maybe not taught, but like messages that I internalized were that disability is something to be ashamed of. And in the dwarfism community, they don't really tell you that you're disabled. They just say that you're short. And so like I didn't know any better, right?
Yeah.
And so the only disabled people I really knew were just like one of my classmates here at Sheridan, a few disabled people like online that I followed, just some like disabled colleagues or just like connections, and then all my friends in like the dwarfism community from my local dwarfism organization. So I didn't really have like that sense of community, you know, when like I faced like an example of like an instance of ableism going out in the community, the only people that I could really talk to about it were my family. And so I think being like online has really helped because I can connect with disabled people from all over the world. I've met so many people through TikTok that are disabled, and so that has just really like helped me just kind of like face ableism, and because I have people who are in like the exact same boat as me.
I see. That's pretty cool. So currently, of course, like you've done your part currently, and you continue to do your part to build a community. Anything on the, let's say, first Ontario government and then Canada's part, have they done enough, in your opinion, to, speak on that? Speak on that.
No. So I've just been recently reading, I should have done this years ago, but have recently been reading more about the AODA, the, oh my gosh, I always mess up the acronym. It's the Accessible Ontario Disability Act, or I'm probably messing that up. Oh my god, I'm a horrible disabled person. But
I can search it up for you if you'd like.
Sure, just making sure I'm getting that acronym right. So it was enacted in 2005,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, it's called the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities
okay,
Act. And
I
you
was
were
forgetting
correct,
the four. I knew I
2005.
was
Yeah,
forgetting.
that's good.
Yeah, so 2005, and there, it's a piece of legislation that it has 6 different kind of things that they focus on for like Ontario to be accessible. Like I think it's transportation, one is like communication and signage. I completely forget the rest of them, but you kind of get like the gist.
Yeah.
And they said that they were going to make Ontario fully accessible by January 1st, 2025. January 1st, 2025.
It's a couple months gone. The first quarter is
gone.
already gone.
It's gone. And I was reading all these articles from disabled people from all these different regions in Ontario, and they were saying, yeah, like they were written back in 2024, but they're like, come on, time is ticking. Like this is, we're nowhere near
Exactly.
accessibility, and there's so many different reasons as to why, because like the AODA doesn't like encapsulate everything. So, you know, one of like the biggest factors is housing is not accessible, because I think that's under like a completely different
body,
documentations. It's like the building codes, and I think the building codes state that only like 15% of houses need to be accessible. But yeah, like Ontario is just, I mean, it's much more accessible than like other places that I've like visited outside of Canada. But yeah, we're nowhere near to the province fully being accessible.
I see. Lots of work to be done, and housing is a big issue. Just even simple things like, I noticed, like just getting into the house, because you know, with like Ontario and the fact that we see a lot of snow, a lot of the houses are raised, and with the fact that they're raised with stairs, there's not, you know, simple as putting a ramp is usually not even there.
Yeah.
So yeah, just something I know. I just wanted you to touch on it, you know, get a bit against the Canadian government something real quick. But yeah, we'll move on. Outside of that, personally, I know you talked about you've been reading and educating yourself. What other measures do you take to educate yourself and learn that you would, you know, advise other disabled people that might be listening, or even, you know, you or anybody else that might be listening, just to educate and learn more about these situations and everything?
Yeah, so I try to stay as informed as possible as what's going, like, about what's going on in like my own community. But I also find that for me the most kind of beneficial way to educate myself is listening to other disabled people, because like I have to admit that I even myself like have internalized ableism. I'm not like a perfect disabled person just because I'm disabled. I know there are some disabled people who have said that they can't be ableist because they're disabled, and I'm like, that's not how it works. So I think, yeah, just listening to other disabled people and always willing to expand kind of my worldview and realize that if I have a certain view on an issue, I might not have like the right view, but yeah, just always knowing that there's room for improvement, and you don't have to be right about everything.
I see. Next to that, I did want to ask about, speaking of learning, there's allyship involved. How could allyship and community, not just in the disabled community, but like amongst everyone else, how could that kind of allyship improve, in your opinion?
I think the number one problem that I see is that there are people, like parents of disabled children, or someone who's like a caregiver to a disabled person, or even like teaches a disabled person, so they're like in proximity to the disabled person, think that because they're like in the disability community, quote unquote that they know what's best for the disabled person, and they will like, they think that their voice is louder and they can speak for the disability community.
Superhero complex.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that can sometimes be like really annoying when you as a disabled person are trying to speak about something and someone is like, oh, well, I'm a parent of a disabled child and like this disabled person has said like blah, 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 or like, I think that blah, 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 and they won't really like listen to the actual disabled person. So I think these people need to realize that even though they're in this space, it's not their space, and that they kind of need to take like a back seat and respect that their voice is not like the loudest voice in this conversation. And a thing that I read like recently, I forget who said it, but when it comes to like allyship, you cannot like label yourself as like an ally, even if you are. Like the label is given to you by the actual like
person that you're allying with.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So yeah, just like realizing that you're not like the main character in this kind of in whatever community that you're part of. Just like be respectful.
Yeah, you know, be respectful, be supportive, you know, all that kind of good stuff. Back to the workplace and everything, what would you say was a moment that stuck out to you in a positive light of, oh, you know, they're really looking out for me, they're really looking out for disabled people? Just an anecdote, a fun anecdote or a sweet anecdote like that stuck out to you or made an impression on you.
Ooh.
It's a good question.
Yeah, because I know that I've had like moments where I'm like, oh, that was really like nice.
I mean, you could rattle off multiple, you know, if you feel like it.
No, but I just like, I know that I've had those, but I just can't think of anything specific. Okay, you know what? Even though I can't think of anything like specific, I would say that when I don't have to like the burden isn't placed on me to like advocate, where I can actually, where the you know, like at an event or something, or the workplace or whatever, where someone actually comes to me and says, what accommodations do you need? How can we make things easier? You know, I don't have to like email whoever's like hosting the event or like my boss or something and say, hey, like I kind of need this, and this.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like they're actively
proactive.
Yeah, they're being proactive. They're not waiting for, my friend actually said this earlier today, but they're not like waiting until someone comes to them and says, hey, I feel excluded.
I see, that's pretty cool. On the flip side of that, what are any situations, we could even expand it outside of the AV workplace, just in general, that you felt, they need to do better, like significantly better at being accommodating in this space?
I have a great example, actually. It's sad that I can think of more negatives than positives. So I recently went to an award show a few months ago, and it was for a diversity award. So the Squeaky Wheel, the show that I associate produced, was nominated for this award. And it was,
congrats, by the way.
Thank you. It was specifically like a diversity award show. So, you know, they had like, you know, like best disability, like scripted, non-scripted. They had it also like categories for, I think, people of color and LGBTQ plus people. And I went to this award show, and the stage was not accessible. And
that's ironic.
Yeah. So there was a wheelchair user on another with another group that was nominated for another award, and they wanted to bring him up to accept the award if they won, and they wouldn't have been able to. And for me, if we had won the award, which we didn't, and I kind of feel like a little bit relieved that we didn't win the award, which is really sad, because I would have kind of humiliated myself, because even though I could get up to the stage, the microphone was on a tall platform that I wouldn't have been able to reach. So I would have had to go up on stage just accepted the award and just, you know,
Right,
walked off
yeah.
stage. And I found it so ironic that they spent the beginning half of the award show just talking about how this is the most like diverse award show in the world. They have like disability categories, they have this category, they have this category, and they were showing pictures of like their board,
Yeah.
and there wasn't a single visible disabled person on the
Doing
board.
all the pandering in the world.
I know, and I was
Yeah.
just sitting there like, I really hope that they're not watching this, or this
See,
like clip doesn't go
I hope
viral.
they're watching so they can learn some.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
like we're actually working with them
Yeah.
to do better, but
That's good.
it was just like me and the other team who I was there with, we were just like kept side-eyeing each other the entire time, and we were like, they're
Yeah.
saying that this is accessible and diverse, or
When
are
in
they sure?
reality, you know.
Yeah, so that was an interesting experience.
Yeah. But it's good that you're working with them, you know, teaching them a thing or two, helping them to improve. That's, you know, what it's all about.
Yeah.
And that, we talked about how in your production you've kind of shaped things to be more accessible, more accommodating. Are there any other places that you've worked with that, not to, you know, call them out or anything, but just to say in those situations or in those places that it's something that you would like to maybe in the future go back and change or go back and improve? I know that you told me earlier that you were on a panel to discuss for LGBTQ issues, but now for disabled issues, there certain environments or spaces that you go back to kind of speak to or improve and things like that?
Yeah. All of the experiences that I've had in the industry has luckily been like really positive.
That's good.
There was one instance where I was working for an entertainment company, and we met kind of the CEO of the company, and he shook everyone's hand, but when he got to me, you could kind of see him like it was just like very subtle, but like visible, like react in a different way. And
Yeah.
it's almost like he didn't know what to do with his hands, and instead of shaking my hand, he gave me a fist bump, and that felt very like
Yeah.
patronizing.
Yeah.
And I think like those are one of those examples where obviously the people working at that company need like training on how to interact with disabled people. Because even though it like, if I were to say this to a non-disabled person or like to a non-disabled group or whatever, they would be like, oh, well, that's an overreaction. Like he gave you a fist bump. But it's
Yeah.
like, as a disabled person who experiences like hundreds of these interactions,
Yeah.
you know that what they're doing feels like they're treating you differently.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, that's one of those instances where if I had the power, I would say to all of them, okay, you need disability training.
Yeah, I feel it. And, you know, that's amazing. Just to start winding down a bit, could you tell us about anything that you have continually planned in the future? What are you working on? You know, what's next for Ms. Violet here?
So I have some things in the work, just kind of like job opportunities. One
Yeah.
that I can't speak about yet.
True.
We're hoping.
Secret.
Yeah. We're hoping to go into production for season 2 of The Squeaky Wheel.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. We're still waiting to hear news about that. But yeah, like I really hope to kind of develop my brand
Yeah.
a bit more. I've kind of put that on the sidelines, but I really would like to grow my audience on social media, actually get like opportunities where I can go offline, like go to companies, go to organizations, and actually speak to them about disability. So yeah, as of right now, like I kind of feel like I'm in limbo, just trying to figure out what I want to do.
I
But
see.
yeah, just some like side projects, just
Cool.
some stuff that has always been in the back of my mind that I haven't really been able to execute yet.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be like that, you know. There's always lows, there's always up and down. So,
Yeah,
you know.
I had a very high year last year. I was doing a lot of traveling, and so I think like coming down from it, I think I just need to take it easy.
Take it and do that.
Yeah.
Well, I hope this was relaxing for you. Anything else you want to say? Any sort of advice? Any sort of charge that you just want to give to sign off at the end here? You know?
Yeah, no, this was a really great discussion. I would say just like to anyone watching, that the worldwide, like when it comes to the worldwide population of disability, 16% of people are disabled. There's over 1 billion disabled people in the world. And I think allies and like non-disabled people really need to carve out space for disabled people who are entering the audio visual industry, because there are a lot of like talented disabled creatives who want to enter the industry, but they can't because it's either inaccessible or people just think that it will cost too much to accommodate disabled talent, or they just have really like ableist kind of mindset and biases. But I mean, like having disabled people on your production will elevate that production or elevate your industry, because people want to see disabled people on their screen. They want to see disabled people, you know, in the theater. They want to have like disabled voiceover artists, because like, you know, people like me who have felt like they've been underrepresented for so long. Like if I see that a little person is going to be in a movie, even if they're in like the background for 10 seconds, like in Wicked, I will tune in, I will watch it, I will spend money to buy a movie ticket. But yeah, just listen to disabled people, just be respectful, stay in your lane, do your part. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much once again for taking the time to be with us. I know you're a very busy woman, so I really do appreciate you taking some time to speak with us. This has been episode 3 of Sync. My name is Okwi Uche-Okorocha. This has been Violet Ferguson. We will see you on the next episode where we will be discussing, one second, let me pull it up here. We will be discussing the portfolio experience. Make sure to tune in for that. It once again has been Okwi Uche-Okorocha. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Wrap.